We had a new client make a $64,000 mistake and he didn't even know he made it. We're going to show you how that was corrected. And after 27 years, I've seen hundreds of retirees make the same mistakes over and over again. We're going to show you what those common mistakes are and what you can do to avoid them. The most common mistake I see people make is that they have a small 401k and an old plan, and they kind of don't know what to do about it. So they're like, it's $3,000, $4,000, in some cases $10,000 or more, and instead of messing around with it and doing the right thing, what do you think they do? They cash it out, paying penalties and taxes on that money, costing them thousands and thousands of dollars. That's just like lighting money on fire. Don't do that. If you work at a new company and they have a 401k plan, what you can do is take your old 401k and roll it into the new plan, tax and penalty free. Okay, so how do you do that? First, set up an account at the new plan. Then call your old 401k provider. You can take a look at the statement there, and they should have an account number on it and the telephone number. You call them up and let them know you want to roll that 401k plan over to the new plan, and they will provide you instructions to do just that. So let's say you roll the 401k over to the new plan. Now what? I see many people make mistakes and not choosing the best investments for themselves. Guy called me up one time asking me some questions. He worked at a major hardware store, and we asked him about his goals, dreams, what he wanted to accomplish. Great. He showed me his 401k statement, and the investments were not set up according to what his goals were. So we gave him some suggestions on what to do. He said, let me talk to Sam. I'm like, who's Sam? Oh, he works in the garden department. The garden department? I mean, you're getting advice from a certified financial planner. You might want to take more weight on that advice than someone who's working in the garden department. So just be careful of who you're getting your advice from, okay? So what we decided to do is reallocate his investments according to what his goals were. Financial planning isn't the time to go look on someone else's paper and copy their work. It's the time to make decisions right for you, not someone else. Let me see if you can guess what this mistake is. Had a couple in their 60s, and they've been maxing out their 401k for 25 to 30 years, and they had only $500,000 in their 401k plan. Can you guess what the mistake is? Right. They didn't have their investments allocated properly for their long-term goals. They had 100% of their money going into a stable value fund. What they could have done instead is have their investments in their 401k allocated to what their goals are, and have that money working harder for them for their retirement. A stable value fund is just like cash, like your savings account or money market accounts. Whereas other types of investments, stocks and bonds, if you do choose the right combination, may be able to give you a higher return over time. Now, in this instance, they had 25 to 30 years to have that money in there. It's likely that with that time frame, they could be better off than 100% in stable value. We already talked about how being too conservative can be a problem. Now let's talk about how being too aggressive can be an issue. Had this guy call me at one time, and he put all of his money in company stock, thinking that, and he said this in his own words, well, it can't get much lower. Well, it was a steel mill that went bankrupt. So yes, it can. The moral of the story is choose the investments that are aligning to your long-term goals, please. Almost all 401k plans have certain questionnaires that can help guide you in choosing your overall investment allocation. Now, you can go with that questionnaire, or you can talk to your financial advisor. Now that you have your investment options down, now you need to save properly inside your 401k. So you need to understand what the catch-up provisions are. So if you're over 50 in 2025, you can put an extra $7,500 in your 401k plan. And new for 2025, there's an extra special turbo bonus catch-up provision for people 60 to 63, and they can have a bigger catch-up. Instead of $7,500, they can put $11,250 extra a year. What many people don't know is even if you're maxing out your 401k and have the right investments, you could still be missing out on some things. Had this guy call me up. He was doing great, saving his 401k, maxing it out. He was a high wage earner, and he was putting so much money in his 401k plan that he was maxing out his 401k by July of that year. What we noticed was when we looked at the 401k statement, he was missing out on some company match. So what this 401k plan didn't have is a true-up provision. And what a true-up provision is that if you're putting money in on a monthly basis and you max it out and you have the rest of the year where you're not putting money in, you're not getting matched on those contributions. He was missing out on company matches. That was costing him thousands and thousands of dollars. So what he had to do was understand what his income is for the year and then blend that out as far as savings over the calendar year to ensure that he would get the company match. Okay, great. Let's say you're not able to max out the 401k. At least do the match amount. You're almost instantly doubling your money if you got a 100% match. You're almost instantly getting 50% on your money if there's a 50% match. At least do that. However, I would recommend do as much as you can. The good rule of thumb is save at least 10% of your pre-tax income, or even better, 20% of your pre-tax income. Okay, great. You're saving in your 401k. Which one of these options should you choose? You got Roth, you got your pre-tax, you got your after-tax, and this is an IRA that you established outside of your retirement plan. So if you're in the 24% bracket or lower, you want to go with Roth, generally, okay? Obviously talk to your financial advisor or your CPA about that. The traditional 401k is for if you're at the 32% bracket or higher, okay? Now, if you maxed out your 401k, you may have the option to put money into an after-tax contribution. It's for all you super savers out there. Then you won't ever have to pay taxes on this money. Wonderful. But what I see people make the mistake on is that they take this money and they put it into a traditional IRA versus a Roth IRA. And what that makes a mistake in is that it's hard to distinguish between what your cost basis is on the Roth portion and what the traditional IRA is. And so if you do this, you have to file Form 8606 to distinguish between the two. Even if you filed Form 8606, keeping track of that over the years can be complex, and many people end up paying double taxation on income. So it's best to make sure that you decide the right places to put each part of your 401k so you don't overpay in taxes. I know what we went over is a lot. There's resources in the description to provide more clarity. If you're over 55 years old, you may be able to withdraw money from your 401k if you're doing early retirement without a 10% penalty. Another option available to people with 401k plans is that if they own company stock inside the plan and it's appreciated greatly, they can roll their company stock outside of the 401k, pay ordinary income taxes on the cost basis only, and then sell the appreciated stock at capital gains rates versus ordinary income. This is called net unrealized appreciation, and it's very advantageous for people who have highly appreciated stock inside their 401k plan. What you want to do in this instance is you pay ordinary income tax on the 100 grand, which is your cost basis. You got $1 million market value, and there's a $900,000 capital gain. So you pay a more favorable capital gains tax on the $900,000 rather than ordinary income tax. Another way you can take money out of your 401k plan, or IRA in this example, is through 72T distributions. And what that is periodic payments under Rule 72T, but once you set those up, you cannot change it. You have to keep the same income amount for 5 years or until you turn 59 and a half, whichever's later. So you want to be very, very careful of how you do that. Obviously, you want to talk to your CPA or your financial advisor before you set up a 72D distribution. Remember at the beginning of the video when I mentioned that a client made a $64,000 mistake and he didn't know it? Well, we had a client sign up. Now we hold all of our money at Fidelity Investments. So as soon as he put his Social Security in there, $64,000 magically showed up. Where'd that come from? It came from an old 401k plan that he had over 25 years ago. Now, fortunately that was held at Fidelity Investments and it showed up in his account. Now, you know how excited you probably are when you find $20 in an old coat pocket? Can you imagine what he felt when he saw $64,000 that he lost? My goodness. The moral of the story is this: get organized, stay organized, or have someone else do it for you. So when you retire, you can see there are many 401k options to consider. And as you can see, lots of penalties if you don't do it right. We went over many options about 401k plans. But is saving in a 401k plan right for you? In this next video, we go over precisely step by step of how you need to save money overall to make the biggest impact on your retirement.